or you can join us online. One of the advantages of modern technology is the work of the Lord can still go on, and you can still get the word out to the saints. So we appreciate you so much for being a part. I want you to grab your Bibles and turn to First Samuel chapter 17. Marvin, let me have one outline there. Let me have one outline. Let me have one. That's one with the answers, aren't you? That's one with the I need one with the answers. If I don't have the answers, I'm just like y'all. Amen. I need to. He's had the answers. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it so much. And today I just kind of want to veer off the path a little bit. Ushers, you can readjust at any point. You know, our theme for the month of March is plenty money. And all month long, that's what we've been focusing on, that subject matter. However, in light of what's happening across our country, yeah, even across our world, I just kind of want to address something a little different. And today I want to talk about leadership needed to handle a national crisis. Leadership needed to handle a national crisis. Because would you admit that we're in the midst of a national crisis right now? Yeah, a national crisis. We're seeing things we've never seen before. We've never seen Walmart have all of the lines open. Amen. We've never seen that before, y'all. This is a crisis. This is a crisis. We've never seen all of the major sports shut down together at the same time. We've never seen that. We've never seen businesses close like they're closing now. Just today in the state of California, and New York is looking at the same thing. The state of California, or particularly the city of San Francisco, has issued a in-home shelter where they are mandating that everyone stays inside all day, unless you're coming out for an emergency or for food. So we're in difficult days. And I still believe that the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and that God is going to use all of this to be glorified. See so many positives coming out of this already. You see people talking that hadn't been talking. Amen. On the political level, you see people working together that hadn't been working together. Even families, you see families calling one another, checking like, I know we hadn't been talking, but I was just checking to see if you had any wipes over there. God is bringing us together, y'all. God is bringing us together. And we appreciate all the good that's going to come out of this. First Samuel chapter 17. I want you to grab your Bible and turn there. Those who are watching online, you too can print out our outline, and you can follow right along with us. Proverbs 29:18 reads, where there is no vision, what? People perish. Where there's no vision, the people perish. This verse records the importance of both a visionary leader and what? Loyal followers. I want you to catch that. Where there's no vision, people perish. But you can also say where there's no people, vision will perish. See, the visionary needs the people, and the people need the visionary. There are three ways you can say that. Where there's no vision, people perish. Where there's no people, vision perish. And also where there's no vision, people will find another parish. You know, parish is a word for church. And folks will find a place where there is vision if there's not one in the church where you attend. Many organizations, families, and nations have fared tremendously due to what? The right people given leadership. Many organizations, families, and nations have fared tremendously due to the right people given leadership. How many of you, either now or at one time, you've been in a leadership position at Berean? Okay, all right, just about all of you. That's why our church is doing so well. That's why our church is doing so well. That's why I put on here that many organizations, Berean is an organization, families and nations have feared tremendously due to the right people given leadership. Throughout the Bible, there are many examples of men and women who did what? Help the nation of Israel progress as a result of their position of authority. Can you think of some people in the Bible, and as a result of their position of authority, they helped the nation of Israel, help that nation of Israel progress, do well? Joseph, Abraham, Moses, just go to the index part of your Bible and grab a name and just come on. Yeah, Joshua, okay. David, huh, who? Oh, Mary, okay. I thought you said Harriet Tubman. I know what you said. I said, yeah, but Harriet wasn't in the Bible. Okay. Yeah. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. This lesson is designed to explore an episode in the life of who? David, and share leadership characteristics needed to handle a what? A national crisis. Leadership characteristics needed to handle a national crisis. 1 Samuel chapter 17 has 58 verses. 58 verses is a pretty lengthy chapter. And David is the main character of this chapter. And here's what you discover when you go through this chapter. Number one, the intimidation towards David. The intimidation towards David. Verses 1 through 26, the intimidation towards David. 27 through 50, the confrontation with David. And then finally, 51 through 58, the motivation by David. When you look at this chapter, you'll find David being intimidated. You'll find David being confronted. But none of it stops David from being a motivating factor for other people. Because 1 Samuel chapter 17 is the story of David's battle with Goliath. That's what 1 Samuel chapter 17 is. It's the story of David's battle with Goliath. More people know the story of David and Goliath than any other story in David's life. More people know the story of David and Goliath than any other episode in the life of David. As a matter of fact, folks that don't even go to church can tell you the story of David and Goliath. People that don't read the Bible can tell you the story about David and Goliath. People that don't even stay up when I'm preaching in church can tell you the story about David and Goliath. And I want to walk you through it today. And I want to give you some leadership characteristics that are needed to handle a national crisis. Let me give you the answers. And then we'll come back and we'll read the story. We'll read the story as much as we can. Number one, leaders who display the right courage are needed during a national crisis. Leaders who display the right courage are needed during a national crisis. Number two, leaders who display the right confidence are needed during a national crisis. Number one, what's needed? Courage. Number two, what's needed? Confidence. Number three, leaders who display the right communication are needed during a national crisis. Leaders who display the right communication. Give me one. One is the right what? Courage. Two is the right what? Confidence. Three is the right. All right, here's 4 and 5. Number four, leaders who display the right commitment are needed during a national crisis. Leaders who display the right commitment. And then number 5, leaders who display the right competence. 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 C-O-M, look at the screen. Competence. Competence means not just being able to do the job, but to do the job well. Not just to do the job, but to do the job well. Is it possible for a person to be committed but not competent? Yes, 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 yes. And as Christians, in the church, in ministry, people are needed who are converted, who are committed, and who are competent. In ministry, people are needed who are converted. You know what that means? Born again. Born again. Sometimes we put people in place that don't know you or the Lord. Amen. People who are converted, born again. I never shall forget when I was asked to be an adjunct professor at Luther Rice Seminary. First of all, I didn't know what adjunct meant. And when they told me they wanted me to be an adjunct professor, I said, ain't nothing junky about me. I didn't know, adjunct meant something different. But when they met with me, by the time that they met with me, Berean was doing very well. I was doing very well. I had created a pretty credible name and ministry at this particular time. And when they interviewed me, the first question they asked was, tell us how you met Jesus. Give us your born again experience. And I was blown away by that, because sometimes we get so caught up in people's resume and their accomplishments that we fail to ask them, have you ever met Jesus? Have you ever met Jesus? So you need people in ministry who are converted. You need people in church who are committed, but then to be competent. Because you can be converted and committed, but if you're not competent, the job won't be done with excellence. See, you can be committed to the choir all you want, but if you can't sing, we need you to look at maybe the security ministry or something. Okay. Hey, can I throw a fourth one in? Can I throw a fourth one in just for free? And then I'm going to walk you through this lesson. I told you in ministry, you need people who are what? Converted. You need people who are committed. You need people who are competent. Watch number 4. You need people who are cooperative. Who are cooperative. Because sometimes in church, sometimes in ministry, sometimes you have people, they saved, they converted, they committed, they faithful, they competent, they can do the job well, but they just can't get along with nobody. And you want to say to them, take your saved, committed, efficient self somewhere else and sit down. Because life is about relationships. Life is about relationships. And I want to show you in this passage where when David battled Goliath, you discover his courage, you discover his confidence, you discover his communication, you discover his commitment, and then you discover his competence. But in a bigger way, that's the biblical side. In a bigger way, a practical side, I want to show you with the crisis we have going on now, with the issue we're dealing with now, with the dilemma we are in now, we need leaders who can display these same 5 characteristics. Now hear me well. I'm not just talking about spiritual leaders. I'm not just talking about political leaders. I'm not just talking about financial, business leaders. Many of you are the leader in your home. And in your home at this season right now, guess what you need to display? Courage. Courage. Courage, courage. I was watching the news this morning, and the news was saying that parents really need to see where their children are right now, because this is really disrupting their normalcy. And they may begin to exhibit behavior that is negative because they can't process all what's going on because they're thrown off of their routine. I was watching another show this morning. They was interviewing some children, and they asked this little girl, they said, "What do you miss about school?" She said, "Nothing." They went to another child. But we need people. We need people. We need people in the home. We need mothers and fathers who display courage. We need people on the job, managers and supervisors who will display communication, the right confidence. And although I believe that this is a time for many of us to pause, this is not a time for us to panic. Ooh, did you hear what I said? Will you tell somebody what I just said from a social distance? Come on, tell them from a. This is a time for pause, but this is not a time for panic. All right, I want to walk you through this. I want to walk you through it. Now, 1 Samuel chapter 17 follows 1 Samuel chapter 16. I know you're blown away at my knowledge of Scripture. But in 1 Samuel 16, guess what? David is anointed to be king. David is anointed to be king in 1 Samuel chapter number 16. And he's anointed in the midst of his brothers where the oil didn't run on them. And then right after David is anointed to be king, Saul the king starts possessing these negative characteristics. And he's being attacked and tormented by evil spirits. And his workers say to him, "Boss man, something needs to be done. Boss man, can we find somebody who can play an instrument, and as they play the instrument, you will feel better?" And he says this, I love it, it's in chapter 16. He says, "Find somebody, but make sure it's somebody who plays well." Come on, what C is that on y'all line? What C is that on y'all line? Competent. He say, find somebody, but find somebody who plays well. And they say, we know somebody. We know somebody. I wish I had time to talk about your gift makes room for you. We know somebody. We know somebody. And they connected King Saul with David, and David came to the palace on a part-time basis, and David would minister to the king. And David was so flexible that sometime he would be his armor bearer, sometime he would be the musician to play to soothe his spirit. But David would come back and forth from the palace to his father's house, Jesse. And when we get to 1 Samuel chapter number 17, David is not at the palace full time. He's not at the palace full time. Mary, start me with verse 1. Let's just walk through it here. Look what it says. Now the Philistines, these are the enemies to God people. They mustered their army for battle, and they camped between Soko and Judah. And then they attacked at this place that started with an E. Come on, let's keep moving. Come on, okay? I ain't never seen that word in the Bible, okay? Saul countered by gathering the Israelite troops near the Valley of Elah, which means there's a big showdown. The Israelites and the Philistines are getting ready to have a battle. Watch this. So the Philistines and the Israelites faced each other on opposite hills with a valley between them. Now you got to get this. One is on one side, the other one's on another side, and there's a big valley between them, and they talking junk. Because it's easy to talk junk when there's a valley between you. Come on now. It's like one's on one side, one's on the other side, and they both saying, "You don't want none of this. You don't want none. No, you don't want none of this. You don't want none of this. I bet you won't cross that line. I bet you won't say that to my face." You know how it's easy to talk junk when you're texting? Come on, don't make me come over there. It's easy to talk junk when you're doing emails and all of that. That's what they're doing because there's a valley between them. Watch verse 4. Then Goliath, a Philistine champion from Gath, he came out of the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. He was over what? 9 feet tall. 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze helmet, and he has his bronze coat of mail. It weighed 125 pounds, which means all the armor he had on weighed 125 pounds. He also wore a bronze leg armor, and he carried a bronze javelin on his shoulder. The shaft of his spear was as heavy and as thick as a weaver's beam, tipped with an iron spearhead that weighed 15 pounds. His armor bearer walked ahead of him carrying his shield. His armor bearer carried his shield. I can't get armor bearers to carry my Bible. Come on. Come on. His armor bearer walked in front of him with his shield. Goliath stood and shouted a taunt across the Israelites. Why are all of you coming out to fight, he called. I am the Philistine champion, but you are only the servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. If he kills me, then we will be your slaves. But if I kill him, you will be our slaves. I defy the armies of Israel today. Send me one person who will come out and fight me. Watch this. And when Saul and the Israelites heard this, they were what? Terrified and deep. See, Goliath said, we can settle this. You get one person, and your one person can fight against me. We don't all have to fight. Let's just pick one. Now, David, who was the son of Jesse, Ephrathite from Bethlehem, in the land of Judah. Jesse was an old man at this time, and he had what? 8 sons. Jesse's 3 oldest boys, Eliab, Abinadab, and Shimea, had already joined Saul's army to fight the Philistines, which means they had the army. They had the war now. David was the youngest son. David's 3 older brothers stayed with Saul's army. But David did what? Went back and forth, so he could do what? Help his father with the sheep. Watch this. He would go to the king's palace and help him. Then he would go to his father's house and help with the sheep. I wish you had time to see that. He would move back and forth from royalty to humility. Don't you ever let royalty interfere with your humility. Don't you ever come up so high that you forget how to come down and do the stuff that caused you to get to where you are now. He would come back and forth. For 40 days. For 40 days, every morning and every evening, Goliath strutted in front of the Israelite army. One day, Jesse said to David, take this basket of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread and carry them quickly to your brothers. In other words, go feed your brothers. And he gave these 10 cuts of cheese to their captain. See how your brothers are getting along and do what? Bring me back a report on how they are doing. David's brothers were with Saul and the Israelite army at the Valley of Elah, fighting against the Philistines. Now, I don't know why I say they fighting against the Philistines, because they really ain't fighting. They just really talking junk, but ain't nobody fighting. Watch this. So David left the sheep with what? Another shepherd. You know what this is? Delegation. Just because God gives you another assignment, that don't mean you have to drop what you was doing before. David turned that over to another brother to make sure that that's taken care of. And he set out early the next morning with the gifts as Jesse had directed him. He arrived at the camp just as the Israelite army was leaving for the battlefield with shouts and battle cries. No, they making a whole bunch of noise, but ain't nobody fighting. Soon the Israelite and Philistines' army stood facing each other, army against army. David left his things with the keeper of the supplies and hurried out to the ranks to greet his brothers. As he was walking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out from the Philistines' rank. Then David heard him shout his usual taunt to the army. Come on, y'all gonna do something today? Y'all gonna do something? This is day 39. What y'all gonna do? Y'all didn't do nothing yesterday. Y'all didn't do nothing last week. Y'all didn't do nothing last month. What y'all gonna do? If y'all scared, just go and tell me you're scared and all that. They going back and forth. As soon as the Israelites' army saw him, they what? They began to run. They began to run. They began to run. Have you seen the giant? The men asked. He comes out each day to defy Israel. The king has offered a huge reward to anyone who kills him. He will give that man one of his daughters for a wife, and that man's entire family will be exempted from paying taxes. Tell somebody, I think I would have fought. I think I would. Come on. He offers three things. He offers a relationship. That's the wife. He offers riches. That's the money. And he offers a release from paying taxes. Come on, look at what he says. David asked the soldier standing nearby, what would a man get for killing this Philistine and ending his defiance of Israel? Who is this pagan Philistine that he is allowed to defy the armies of the living God? And these men gave David the same reply, which means they gave him the three things that they would get. They said, yes, that's the reward for killing him. And when David's older brother, Eliab, heard David talking to the men, he was angry. What are you doing around here anyway? He demanded. What about those few sheep you were supposed to be taking care of? I know your pride. I know your deceit. You just came down here to see the battle. I would have told him ain't nothing to see. Ain't nobody fighting. You looking, the king looking, the captain looking, everybody. What's one more person gonna hurt? Now watch this. They are intimidated. They are intimidated by Goliath. But now David is confronted by his family. And I wish I had time to talk about whenever you try to stand up and do something by faith, expect some of your family to stand up and say, you can't do that. You can't do that. Look what David said. What have I done now? What have I done now? David replied, all I was doing was asking a question. He walked over to some others and he asked them the same thing. And he received the same answer. Like, what would I get if what would a person get if they defeat Goliath? Then David's question was reported to the king. David's question was reported to the king Saul, and the king sent for him. Don't miss this. He gets an audience with the king. He gets an audience with the king. Don't you miss this. If he had slapped his brother, he would have never got an audience with the king. Y'all missing this. When you lose your cool and lose your temper and go off over foolish stuff, you lose an audience to stand before the king. Come on now. Somebody ran to the king, and what do you think they told the king about David? Somebody here want to fight. Somebody here want to fight. Somebody here wants to fight. And the king said, call him in. All right, come on. Don't worry about this Philistine, David said. This is courage right here. This is courage right here. Don't worry about this Philistine, David told him. I'll go fight him. Do you see courage there? How do you see courage there? How do you see courage there? I'll go fight him. Put up 33. Don't be ridiculous, Saul replied. There is no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's a man of war since his youth. David says, I got it. Saul says, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. That's David's courage. Watch David's confidence. Verse 34. I love it. But David persisted. I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats, he said. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, he says, I go after it with a club. I rescue the lamb from his mouth. And if the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. Come on, look at another woman and say, that's the kind of man I want. Look what he said. He said, I've done this. He said, I've done this to both lions and bears. And I will do it to this pagan Philistine too. For he has defied the armies of the living God. Put up 37. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will do what? Rescue me from this. Y'all missing this? The same God that got us through anthrax. The same God that got us through Ebola, SARS. Same God that got us through when 2000 came in. Everything was supposed to crash. Same God that got us through Hurricane Katrina, Ivan, and all the rest of them. This ain't the first time we've been in trouble, y'all. And when your back is up against the wall, you've got to remember what God has done in the past. This is not the first time jobs have been furloughed. This is not the first time many things have been cut. This is not the first time stuff has closed. And God has seen us through every time. And as he's seen us through then, he can see us through now. This is a good time to tell your children, this is the time to put our faith into action. This is the time for us to grow up. This is the time for us to mature. This is the time to put our big boy pants on. Confidence. 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 You can't be hiding under the bed and asking your kids why they scared. He says, I got this. Watch this. And Saul finally did what? Consented. All right, go ahead, he said. And may the Lord be with you. You know what Saul was saying? Because I ain't going to be there. May the Lord be with you. Now remember, Saul didn't want him to go at first. But because of David's confidence, he helped Saul to feel a little bit better. Boy, let's keep reading. Then Saul gave David his own armor. Now, why do you think Saul gave David his armor? Because he wasn't going to use it. Somebody needs to use this. I ain't going to use it. Then Saul gave David his armor, a bronze helmet and a coat of mail. And David put it on. Isn't it amazing? People that had a chance to do the job before you that wouldn't do the job. Now when you get the job, they want to tell you how to do the job. He says, here, take this. This is going to help you. This is going to help you. This is going to help you. And I love David because he ain't sarcastic. You know, we would have said, I can't tell. You know, I don't need that. I don't want that. David put it on. He strapped the sword over it. He took a step or two to see what it was like. For he had never worn nothing like that before. And then he said, I can't go in these. I'm not used to them. So David took it off. The King James says, this don't fit me. And you got to know what fits you and what don't fit you. And whatever don't fit you, you got to take it off. Anger shouldn't fit you. Jealousy shouldn't fit you. Envy shouldn't fit you. You got to pull that. Hatred shouldn't fit you. You got to pull that stuff. He pulled it off. Come on, look what he said. Look what he said. Look what he said. And what did he do? He picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream, put them in his shepherd's bag. Then he, armed only with his shepherd's staff and a sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. Goliath walked out toward David with his shield bearer ahead of him, sneering in contempt at this ruddy-faced boy. am I a dog? He roared at David, that you come to me with a stick? And he cursed David. Tell somebody what he may have called. No. And he cursed David by the names of his gods. Come over here. Come over here. And I'm going to give your flesh to the birds, to the wild animals. Goliath yelled. David replied to the Philistine. Now here's his communication right here. This is communication. This is point number 3 right here. This is communication. Look what he says. You come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I'm coming to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's army, the God of armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord's going to conquer you, and I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to cut off your head. Then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and the wild animals. Catch this right here. And the whole world will know that there's a God in Israel. Come on now. You got to get that. We can't go. We can't go. I can't release you to go wash your hands until you get this. David says, I'm going to whip you. Not for me, but for God. I'm going to whip you so that people know that God is real, that God is the Almighty, that God is the Most High. See, you got to check your motive when you get in a battle. And you got to let God know, I don't want this for me. I want this for you, because I want people to see if you hadn't have been in my life, I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't have what I have. So use me to show other single parents that as a single parent you can make it. Use me to show other people making minimum wages that you can still pay your bills. Use me to show people in the midst of everything shutting down, they can still call on you. He said, I want this for you. I want this for you. I want this for you. Look what the text says. And everyone assembled here is going to know what? That the Lord rescues his people. But not with what? A sword. This is the Lord's battle. And he about to put you into my hands. That's communication. His communication was about God. This ain't the time to be cussing, y'all. This ain't the time to be fussing. This is the time to keep your praise to God. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This is the time to stay before your family. We may have to make some adjustments, but we gonna be all right. We may have to cut some things, but we gonna be all right. We all may have to stay in this house, but we gonna be all right, because we gonna take some breaks. You gonna get the TV for 30 minutes, then I'm gonna get my show for an hour, then you gonna get... We can't all be in the same room for 24 hours, because somebody going to get hurt up in here. Somebody going to have to go to. Come on. This is a time where we could get closer as a family, y'all. We can watch some movies together. We can communicate. We can read. We can do some things that life has stopped us from doing because we've been so scattered. He said, God's going to give it to me. Now watch his commitment. As Goliath moved closer to attack David, what did David do? Do you see commitment here? How do you see commitment here? How do you see? Y'all be saying y'all see stuff, but y'all don't be. Y'all just be, yeah. Let's say whatever else say so he can let us go. Yeah, we see it, right? We see it. Yeah. He started moving forward. He said, yeah, y'all got it. Ain't no slow side up in here today, boy. Watch it, y'all. Goliath was used to whenever he rushed somebody, they would what? They put the brake. When Goliath rushed him, David rushed him back. Goliath was used to people turning around and seeing their back. But David says, I ain't going to show you my back because God got my back. Ooh. He rushed him. And they rushed each other. Watch what happened. reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone. Hey, Mary, do me a favor. Do me a favor. Go all the way back to verse number 40. Verse number 40. Verse number 40. Remember in verse 39, what did he take off? What did he take off? He took off the armor. Please pay attention. Please pay attention. He took off the armor. And verse 40, what did he pick up? Pick up the stone. Which means we got to take off some stuff, but we also got to what? Pick up some stuff. Now put the verse where we on, man. Last verse we stopped at. I think it's what, 49? Verse 40, he picked up the stones. Watch this. He doesn't use it till 49. Here's what I want to catch you. Here's what I want to ask you. What would have happened if he had never picked it up? You know what this teaches us, Pastor Adrian? The importance of being prepared. Are y'all listening to me? See, it's better to have it and not need it. Oh, now y'all trying to take the lesson. Y'all ain't been saying nothing for 50 minutes. Now all of a sudden, he was prepared. He was prepared. It's better to have tissue and not need it. Come on, talk to me, somebody. It's better to have wipes and not need it. Come on, he was prepared. Reaching into his shepherd bag, taking out a stone, he hurled it with his sling, and what did he do? He hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. Come on, I would call that competence. Come on, because competence is not just doing the job, but what? Doing the job well. Watch this. So David triumphed over the Philistine with only what? A sling and a stone. And he had no sword. Then David ran over and pulled out Goliath's sword. Goliath had never pulled out his sword. Why? He was overconfident. He didn't think he would need it. And David pulled it out and did what? Used it to kill him and cut off his head. I decree and declare that the head of this virus is going to be cut off. Come on now. Will somebody agree with me? I decree and declare that the head will be cut off and we will return back to normalcy. Jobs are going to come back. People are going to come back. Schools are going to open up. Children are going to be fed. But we got to exercise courage, y'all. We've got to exercise, what's number 2? Confidence. We got to exercise communication. We got to exercise commitment. Watch this. Watch this. Put the next verse up, man. Put the next verse up. Put the next verse. Come on, it's 58 verse. I'm not going to read them all. I'm going to stop at 57. Come on, here we go. Here we go. Go back to that. Then the men of, go back one more. Go back one more. Go back. There. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they what? Returned to them. Now remember, before all the Philistines were saying what? You don't want none of this. You don't want none of this. Jump. You don't want You don't want none of this. Then the men of Israel and Judah what? Gave a great shout of triumph, and they rushed after the Philistines, chasing them. Y'all missing this? David killed one, and they killed the rest of them. When David got there, was they ready to fight? No, them jokers were scared as can be. But he motivated them. And when they saw him kill the giant, they got the other soldiers. During this season, people are watching you. And they watching to see if you're going to stay calm. They watching to see if you're going to stay prayed up. They watching to see if you still going to read, if you still going to trust God. And you can motivate them. You can motivate them. Leaders who are needed during a national crisis. This was a national crisis, y'all. The whole nation of Israel was afraid. And right now, not only is just our nation afraid right now, come on, y'all, but the world. The world. But I want you to hold on to your faith. And I don't care what shuts down, you make sure you and your communication with God don't shut down. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. I don't know what's going to happen Saturday. I don't know what's going to happen Sunday when we gather for worship, but we're going to worship one way or another. We ain't going to shut all the way down. We may make some changes. We may make some adjustments, but that's only to protect the health of our members, not because we scared. Amen. And God's going to see us through. Because Psalm 91 is more powerful than COVID-19. Would you stand and wave at a couple of people and shout, Psalm 91 is more powerful than COVID-19. Courage. Courage. The right courage. The right courage. Confidence. Remember what you've been through before. Communication. Talk about God. Talk about God. This ain't the time to be talking about how afraid you are, how scared you are. Then commitment. Stay committed. Stay committed. And then competent. Whatever you do, do it well.